ladies and gentlemen, the founder of Nature Therapy Ireland, Sarah Hourigan.
Hello. It's so lovely to look around this room tonight and to think and know that I've spent some time with so many of you in the forest. So lots of lovely forest bathers in all these groups here. So my name is Sarah Hourigan, as Emily said, and over the past few months since she asked me to speak, I've been trying to think of what will I talk about? Maybe I will talk quite specifically about research and something really specific in terms of all of the different things that nature and forest bathing can be wonderful for our health and well-being. So while my research brain really wanted to zero in on something like that, I decided instead to tell you a little bit about my story and how my childhood growing up in the Irish countryside has led to me running my own business called Nature Therapy Ireland. So before we dive in, I'd love to take you to the beach with me. I invite you all to close over your eyes just for a moment. And I'd like for you to simply breathe in with me. So I'd like you to take a big deep breath into your nose, then your chest, your lungs and abdomen, and a long emptying exhale through your mouth. Make this audible. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. Just begin to allow any tension you might be holding in your body go, relax a little further into the seat beneath you. Breathing in deeply and exhaling completely. I'd like for you to imagine that there's a gentle wave rolling over your body from the tips of your toes, all the way up over your knees, your thighs, your abdomen, your chest, over your face. As you breathe in and gently exhale, just feel the water receding. Bringing your attention to your face now, just allow all the micro muscles that hold so much tension to soften. Relax the space between your eyebrows, release your temples and your scalp, loosen your jaw and tongue, and just allow your face to rest. All the while breathing in and breathing in rhythm with the waves, the sound of your own breath coming just like the ocean. Taking 1 or 2 more breaths in your own time and feel the flow. And whenever you're ready to come back, you can rejoin us here. I run through this tiny little taster of the practice here to remind you that even though we're here indoors together, we are nature too, and we can harness the power of it and find balance wherever and whenever we need to. So let's travel back in time. This is me. When I look at my childhood, at my teenage years, I feel so privileged that the memories that come flooding back to me were pretty much all created out in nature. I was lucky enough to grow up in the Irish countryside, just outside Clonmel in Tipperary. And this meant that I developed a strong but subconscious connection to nature early on. So I spent my time exploring, camping, swimming, hiking. Was really where I felt most at home. So my teenage years were spent in Scouts. You can see the third photo there. Doing everything and learning everything I could about independence and safety and teamwork and leadership, but all in the wilderness. So from things like cooking over an open fire for 12 of my peers when I was so young, to camping in these big, ugly green canvas tents, to building structures with my hands from wood. But of course, I took all of this completely for granted, and I could not wait to leave the countryside to go towards the cities and make my way toward Cork and Dublin for college and this faster pace of life that I thought was going to suit me best. So when I finished my master's in applied psychology at Trinity College Dublin, I went on to work in the fields of health research and education for about 7 years, ultimately knowing that this wasn't the right fit for me. So during this time, I began to have a sense of disconnection. I really started to notice that I was losing passion for what I loved outside of work. Didn't necessarily feel like I had time to explore my passions, and I was starting to feel lost in my career path. So I slowly began to feel disconnected from nature over time, and this bustling city rat race lifestyle, sitting at a desk, staring at a screen, like I'm sure so many of you do as well. I was loving my job as a researcher, but I just knew that this disconnected lifestyle was not the right fit for me. Lo and behold, depression and anxiety slowly started to roll into my life, crept up on me, and I really realized then that something had to change. So I took on the project with my real researcher hat to try to figure out what was missing and how could I fix this. So I've looked back through my life at times when I felt truly at home within myself, with space to think, where my worries would take a backseat. And the answer for me was always in nature. So I started with what I knew. I rejoined Scouts in Dublin as a leader. And within the first month, I was in the Dublin Mountains camping with them. When I woke up the next morning, frozen to the bone with my old camping gear, frost in my hair, exhausted from no sleep, I really felt at peace, coming home to myself somehow. And I was like, this is it. I had such a light bulb moment. I was like, this is the thing that I'm missing. So a few months on, I started to explore how I could potentially find some peers to do this with. I found an all-female adventure group that go to the Dublin and Wicklow Mountains every week. I decided, right, let's try this. I'll go for one hike every month with them up into the hills. And joining this group was another step towards a goal and a life change that I couldn't even put words on at the time. So when I went on my fourth hike with them, this is in 2018, it's in April, I started in January, I really started to think, okay, these questions started forming. I remember standing here on Derrybon Ridge and the questions started coming in. Why can she do this job, the guide and the business owner? Why can't I do a job where I can go out to nature and help people connect to it? I discovered that I couldn't find an answer to that question. So after about 8 months, I was her first ever employee and I worked for an entire year, 7 days a week. I worked Monday to Friday as a researcher for the government. And then the last 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, I was a mountain guide in the mountains. And I absolutely loved it. The real thing that was just sitting with me was I feel better doing this than I ever do at my desk. So I knew that something was shifting. So spending so much time with so many women in the mountains, I actually began to witness hugely positive impacts that they were having by just getting out to nature and spending time with other people. So they were experiencing physical and mental healing right in front of my eyes. So back on went my researcher's hat and my mind was whirring. How can I join my education in psychology, my career in health research, and my passion for spending time outdoors? How can I join it all together? So in 2019, before all these kind of buzzwords of forest bathing were known in Ireland or so much on the scene, I discovered this whole field I was unaware of, nature-based therapies in all their different forms. So in 2019, I spent the year studying forest bathing, forest therapy, eco-psychology, wild therapy, and also mountain skills and wilderness safety. Sounds like a lot, but they all kind of fall under one umbrella of nature-based therapies. So what I started to do then was just slowly add in elements from all of these things into my hikes in the mountains with the women. And I really started to notice the depth of their nature connection really begin to flourish. So in 2020, having done as much work as I possibly could, but also not feeling ready at all, you never do, I launched my business. And I did this in the Dublin Mountains in the woods with 2 forest bathing walks over one weekend, packed out with all of my closest friends. You can see some of them here on screen. And this began my journey of guiding people in rediscovering their connection to nature for the benefit of their physical and mental health. So just in case you didn't get to join us on a forest bathing walk yesterday or even last year, let me explain a little bit about what it is. So if you've ever moved through the forest yourself, listened to the wind in the trees, noticed the sunshine filtering through the leaves, you've already practiced forest bathing in your own way for sure. If you're looking to deepen that practice, a forest bathing walk is a structured practice where we use a series of invitations to really awaken your senses to the natural environment around you. So it aims to help you discover an enhanced sense of appreciation for nature, and then also as a result, rebalance your body and mind. So since the 80s, when forest bathing became an actual structured practice in the Japanese preventative healthcare system, at the moment you could go to your doctor, your clinician, your psychologist, your physiotherapist, and they'll give you whatever they would give you here in Ireland. They might actually also give you 10 hours in a forest in the next 6 weeks. So it's part of their healthcare system, their preventative healthcare system. So many studies have started to investigate the health and wellbeing benefits of this practice. So more recently, the researchers mentioned here on screen, they carried out a meta-analysis. And what that does is it looks at all the research that's happened in a space, and does all the hard work for us and boils it all down together and gives us these lovely outcomes that you can see here on screen. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the more qualitative outcomes, so the scientifically measurable ones, such as measuring the impact on our cardiovascular health. It can reduce our blood pressure and our pulse rate. reducing cortisol that makes us feel stressed. So for people who might experience anxiety or depression, they can also boost the natural killer cells that make up our immune system too. So while using that quantitative data, I love that, I'm a researcher at heart, is wonderful. It's really important to take into account people's lived experience on the right-hand side here. So looking at things like quality of life, the impact, the positive impact it can have on people's sense of presence and sense of community is something really important to look at as well. So look at all these benefits. Why not just give it a try? So across all these studies they examined, the researchers started to find that our exploration into nature connection doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be completely immersive. You don't have to be standing on the summit of a mountain. You don't have to be swimming in the sea. You don't have to be lying on the forest floor as a forest bather to reap all the rewards. So it's these simple, subtle additions to your days, your weeks, and your months that can make huge impacts to our health and well-being in the years to come. So if you're like me, you'd like to know how this actually works. So what does the science tell us? Here are some of the ways in which nature connection can really enable you to experience the benefits I've just talked you through. So I could stand here all night and talk about all of these things, but I'll just touch on phytoncides for the moment. So you can imagine phytoncides, a tree. You can imagine a tree. Imagine the tree is emitting something kind of like an essential oil diffuser out into the atmosphere. We just can't see it. And what the tree does this to defend itself against decay, decomposition, insect infestation. It's pretty much for the general health and growth of the tree. So international research is now showing us that as humans, we can hugely benefit by just simply being amongst the trees and breathing them in through the air. So what they can do for us is they can lower our stress levels, by reducing our cortisol, they can improve our heart health, and they can also boost our immune system. So next time you're amongst the trees, whether you are in your garden, if you're lucky enough to have one, if you're in your local urban park or on a forest bathing walk with me, just know that by simply being in the forest, you're actually doing something incredible to rebalance your body and mind. So a hugely important part of my work is to make nature connection practices as accessible and inclusive as possible so that everyone can find a way to use these skills in a way that works for them. My passion for this work lies particularly with people who might not have access to nature easily. So I work regularly with people who are blind or visually impaired. The quote on screen here is actually from a blind person who's been coming to my events for 3 years. I also work with people who live in direct provision or iPass centres. I work with children on the autism spectrum and people in school completion programmes. So that's just to name a few, but I think this is something that's, really drives the work that I do. I also work with the public and I host private events and I help people who work in the corporate world disconnect from their desks and escape into the forest. And as I said, I know some of you here got to join me in the forest yesterday to relax your bodies and to rest your minds. So 4 years into running my business, I feel like I'm finally coming full circle. I've recently taken on the role of National Lead of the Woodlands for Health programme. It's run by Mental Health Ireland, Quilcha and Get Ireland Walking. It's a 12-week woodland-based walking programme for adults availing of mental health services and supports in Ireland. And it runs across the country since 2012. So it's going a long time and I'm sure a lot of you here might never have heard of it. But I can tell you that it is absolutely incredible. I was lucky enough to run the Waterford programme before I took on the role for the last 2 years. And I've seen firsthand the incredible outcomes it can have for people who are struggling with mental health issues. I feel so lucky now to be working in a space where I can have a national impact, where I can scratch that research itch, and I can also get to simultaneously run my own business, which takes me out into nature every week. It really connects me to the actual work and to my why. So now you know my story and how its threads throughout my entire life of nature connection has brought me here today. I want to leave you with this question. What is your nature story? We all have one, whether it is a whisper on a gentle breeze or a roar from the summit of a mountain. I'd also more importantly like you to ask yourself, where would you like it to take you next? Thank you.